Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
And good morning to you.
We're all in our places with sunshiny faces.
I'm Lynn Cullen. I hope we'll spend the next hour together. It's a Thursday. I'm in Pittsburgh, PA. It's the 20th of June. Tom Sokolowski, who's often here on Thursdays, is someplace else. So 'tis you and me. The news, it's not the biggest news story, but it's the one that probably was the most stunning since we last talked, is the death of James Gandolfini. And I was just going through my tweets yesterday afternoon, and bang, there it was. And it blew me away. The weird thing was that somebody might want to double check this for me. Some group that does this stupid thing of putting out rumors about the deaths of celebrities all the time. They say, oh, so-and-so is dead, and then all hell breaks loose, and blah, 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 and it turns out not to be true. But it appears that 2 days ago, they did it on James Gandolfini and said he was dead. He was not dead.
It's just a coincidence.
Yeah, I know it's a coincidence, but how odd. And they had a whole story, had him dying in Hollywood. That's obviously not where he died, but how bizarre. I think most of us were shocked at the fact that he was only 51 years old. He seems so... because I think a lot of folks have trouble separating him from Tony Soprano. I don't think Tony Soprano was just 51 years old. That wasn't my sense of him. And Gandolfini, because of his largeness, his look, looked older than that. But that's too young. I was not a constant fan of The Sopranos, and it has nothing to do with the quality of the show, which I know is extraordinary. It was the quality of the acting, which I knew was extraordinary. It's just that I, in many parts of my life, just never got into watching TV at a certain time. Actually, through most of my life, I've been a very, very lackadaisical television consumer. But I did see some and could tell how brilliant it was. I also have seen him in other movies. And I mean, the takeaway is this guy was just a great actor. He was just fantastic actor, able to totally inhabit a character, to take something on the printed page and make it flesh and bone, and to give this totally complex personality believability, that a person could be cruel, murderous, all the things that character was, and at the same time be gentle and conflicted and neurotic and fearful and insecure, all those things as well. But I'm sure that for the real fans of the series, it's a hard death to get into your head. And just as somebody who appreciates great acting, it's a great loss, I mean, The Sopranos is a done deal, so it's not that it's not as if the show were ongoing and we've lost the ability to continue it. It was a contained piece of video extraordinariness. And all the Emmys and all the accolades only underscore that. A slightly less high-profile obit that I just want to pay attention to is also the death of a man, too young. This man, just 33 years old, dead in a car accident. But in his 33 years, Michael Hastings made a mark. He was a journalist. He was a good journalist. He won the probably most prestigious journalism award. You might think it's the Pulitzer. I think it's the George Polk Award. And he had won that. I believe he won that for the piece in Rolling Stone, which took down, if you'll recall, the general who was the top commander of American forces in Afghanistan. His name was McChrystal, General Stanley McChrystal, who for some reason spoke, as did his underlings, with such loose tongues while they were being interviewed by Hastings. And Hastings took what he was given and wrote a, jaw-dropping, eye-opening piece. And General McChrystal found his 34-year military career over. So this 33-year-old brought down a big general. He was covering the Iraq War for years and years and years, and his fiancée at the time followed him there, did not want to be separated from him, so she took a job as with some governmental, non-governmental, organization with an NGO. And 6 years ago, she was killed in an IED attack in Afghanistan. So he had a lot of tragedy in that young life too, losing his fiancée and now losing his own life. Michael Hastings. Okay, I'm going to try to keep my eyes peeled today for news coming down from the Supreme Court, which is expected to hand down, here's one already, hand down some of the cases, DOMA, gay marriage, the Prop 8 case, and other cases. And so this is going to be a big news day in terms of the Supreme Court. The first one out today is not one that we're waiting with bated breath for. This was an 8-1 vote. It says the ruling limits government's power to enhance sentences based on prior convictions. I don't know, it's a criminal law case, and I'm not not sure exactly what that is. So I'll just keep my eye on it. Feel free, if you're in a position, to keep your eye on things too, and email them anything my way that I can then share with the audience. It's Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Also, you can, as you know, call me in a telephonic manner at 412-316-3381. Just looking at the PG today, Brian O'Neill went to visit our former House, the Democratic Speaker of the House, at a certain time in history not too long ago, a Mr. Bill DeWeese of Waynesburg, PA, who is now ensconced in one of the jails in Luzerne County. And he found DeWeese absolutely DeWeese. And DeWeese, as anybody who has followed him, seen him being interviewed on television, or read a quote from him, the guy is a character, a really great character. Now, he went astray of the law like so many other powerful people in Harrisburg have done in the past. And that is, he used his government staff, employees, to also work on re-election campaigns, and that is absolutely verboten. He still doesn't think he belongs in jail, and O'Neill has him quoted saying to him, "Yeah, I'm behind 7 rows of razor wire because some of my people campaigned before 5 o'clock." So he's, I guess you would say, definitely not bowed. He was known for his unbelievable vocabulary. I'd actually like to see him in a vocabulary slam down or something with Cyril Wecht, because those are the two guys locally who love big words, who have huge vocabularies, and who use them with such joy. And I get the biggest kick out of them. Anyway, O'Neill reports that he seems just fine. And he says while he was sitting in the visiting room talking to him, a big, burly inmate walked by and slapped DeWeese on the shoulder, and he said, "My favorite governor." So all the other guys, they call him governor, they call him senator, they call him and they like him. So he was always very good at glad-handing his way through Greene County, I believe it is. Yes, Greene County. And people just adored him. Even after he was indicted, even I think after he was convicted, he kept winning re-election. I mean, people just love the guy. And it turns out all these inmates do too. In fact, he made the mistake. I guess when you're in prison, you're not supposed to ask another prisoner what they're in for. And he made that mistake. And the guy told him that he was in, let me find it. Well, I can't, but he was in for murdering the hitman who came to murder me. That's what the guy said. I'm here. I murdered the hitman who was coming to make a hit on me. Meanwhile, that particular murderer really, really likes DeWeese, and they're all making jokes about him that nothing happens on on their floor or in their section without DeWeese saying it's okay. They were teasing, I believe, but they like the guy. And Deweese is heard to say this. I just like this. Here's a Deweesian. He's been in prison now for 14 months, and he says, I've never for a second felt any tremulous apprehension about my personal safety. Now, who else would say that? Tremulous apprehension. I mean, anybody else would say, I've been here 14 months and I've never been afraid for my personal safety. No, you don't get afraid from Bill Deweese. You get tremulous apprehension. And then he goes on to say that being locked in a cell for 16 hours a day and eating awful food and being in the company of murderers and such, he says this about it: it is the most magnificent experience of my life. How could it not be? Now there, I might question, I would like to ask a follow-up question to Mr. Deweese on that one, because I can see that a stint in prison would be an extraordinary experience in your life, but to call it magnificent, I don't understand that. The most magnificent. So we'll find out more. Anyway, he apparently he's all of good cheer and indomitable, and I don't know. It makes you like him. How do you not like a guy that handles that with such aplomb? Okay. Just quickly. Horrible decision for consumers from the Supreme Court in an American Express case this morning. Uh-oh. Well, I don't see anything more on that, though. Okay, a horrible opinion for consumers does not surprise me coming from this court, but we'll find out more. So, I have a few things here. Some of these were left over from yesterday and just didn't have a chance to get them in. So, have you seen... Oh, wait. I got to tell you this. Mark your calendars, July 19th. I know it's a little ways away, but it ain't that long. It's a month away. July 19th, and then mark the time, 5:27 to 5:42 p.m. Because whether you know it or not, at that time, your picture is going to be taken from 900 million miles away, which would place the camera on the other side of Saturn. July 19th. You've heard of that Cassini spacecraft? We launched it, and we launched it, heaven knows when, a long time ago now, probably about 10 years ago. It's been making its way out to Saturn. It's been perambulating Saturn. It's been taking picture after picture. It has sent back all kinds of information. So it has been an extraordinary, successful probe into our universe. And I have seen some pictures that Cassini has taken, and they're awe-inspiring. They're awesome. Now, they know that Cassini at that time will be in position to take its picture where the sun is going to be behind Saturn, and consequently Saturn is going to be sort of blocking out the sun, so it'll be a backlit shot of Saturn. They're expecting something gloriously beautiful, where the planet itself will appear, I guess, very, very dark, but they think the rings are going to be, because of the sunlight coming, they're going nuts waiting for this picture. But the reason I said your picture is going to be taken is they've also figured out that our side of the Earth will be facing toward the camera at that time. And they've even calculated and accounted for the fact that it takes light 80 minutes to go from Earth to Saturn. So, like, if you really want to wave at 5:27 to definitely be in the picture, that's the time that's been figured out, taking into account the 80-minute time difference. So that is the correct time. Obviously, I'm kidding. You're not going to see yourself in the picture because they've taken other pictures of Saturn, Cassini has, and in it, Earth is often visible, but it has to be pointed out. So there's this glorious ringed planet. And then there, at the bottom, off to the right, there's this like teeny little blue dot. And that's us. That's us. They say this is going to be an iconic picture, and, you know, if you, the sense that you can, in fact, be in it, or as they say, you'll be unlikely to recognize yourself in the picture, you on that little dot. But when the final picture is put together, you will have the knowledge that when Cassini was looking at you 900 million miles away, you were looking right back. And so whenever you'll see this picture, which will, as I said, become an iconic picture, you'll know you're in it. So get outside that day and wave your arms around. That was just for you science buffs. Now, I've got something I want to get into, but looking at the clock, I see that it would be a better idea to maybe take a quick break and come back in a moment.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. Sign up for our weekly newsletter to hear about new deals first. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
Okay, the Urban Gardener. I was out there yesterday. I found myself coming back from way in the north, and I thought, ooh. And so I got off 279 and zipped down North Avenue and bango, got past the Mexican War Streets and right up Brighton Road, and there it was. And as per usual, wow, I see things there that I don't see anywhere else. Wonderful things. And the stuff they have for like people like me who have a lot of shade, and a lot of urban gardens do have a lot of shade. And I happened to mention to the wonderful women who own the place, I said, you know, I have mostly perennials now, but they've gotten so huge. And I'm thinking, what were people thinking like me when we put things? I never pay attention when it says, plant these 18 inches apart. And I always think, 18 inches. And I put things like almost next to each other. And then 2-3 years later, you have like this overgrown garden with everything, you know, on top of everything else. And they said, well, it sounds like you might need us to come out and help you redesign and pull things out. And I thought, I've never done something like that, had help. And I have to admit, I've been thinking, that's a lot of physical labor I'm looking at here. So they do that, and you gotta believe they know what they're doing, Just talking to him for a while, I understood things better. Please, if you're in need of anything, shrubs, perennials, trees, they got marvelous, marvelous trees and shrubbery and perennials and annuals and garden art and all that kind of stuff. Go there. What a great place. 1901 Brighton Road. Check it out online at urbangardenerpgh.com. Simple as that. Say my name. I forgot to again. Lynn Cullen, and you get a discount. Yee.
Hey, Billy, want to go to the state fair?
Yeah!
Well, you can't.
Huh?
Well, you see, Billy, when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have done with it. But now your parents are becoming energy efficient. They could save hundreds of dollars a year and take you to the fair next year.
I want to go now.
I know you do. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
All right, well, never mind the Supreme Court. They have announced that there are no more major rulings being announced today. The next bunch of announcements will be Monday. They're sure dragging this out. Monday at 10 a.m. So, obviously, the ones that everybody's waiting for, they're all done. Why can't they just dump them out there? What is it, just parceling it out? Or give us the ones we're really dying to know about? But they're not. It's a done deal. The guys are done with their work. Okay. So have you heard about the Paula Deen thing?
Racist.
I have to tell you, I don't know this woman from Adam. I'm aware of her. I've seen her pictures. She has a TV show, right?
Yeah.
She's one of those cooks. There's so many cooking shows, and I don't follow any of them. But Paula Deen has been an extremely successful one. She's also the one, she does all this southern cooking. And then she found out she had diabetes from probably ingesting all the lard and butter and God knows what she'd been eating all those years. And so she very publicly tried to make her recipes a little more healthy, but she stayed with it. She's, got a charming smile and a lot of pep and personality, I believe, right? That's Paula Deen. Well, it turns out that Paula Deen has a brother, and she's involved in some restaurants with her brother. Her brother is named, of course, Bubba. What is that? Bubba. And they have companies that they have formed together to operate restaurants in Savannah, Georgia. And a year ago, they were sued by a former employee, one Lisa Jackson, who the lawsuit went to federal court for the Southern District of Georgia and alleged that the plaintiff was subjected to racist, sexist, and even violent behavior during her 5 years of employment. Now, a case like that normally, I don't know, would get out into the major media, but what happened is the National Enquirer first reported the story, and now it's raising eyebrows in mainstream media because of her popularity. And now people are wondering if she will be able to retain her job, because she was one of the people sued as an owner of the restaurant, and she was called to give a deposition in the case last year in the fall. And that deposition has leaked. And the deposition, a lot of people who have read it, shows that she's just a ordinary, Southern racist. She is. But what's curious as you look at her responses is she doesn't have a sense of that at all. And my guess is that she's joined by a frighteningly high percentage of her fellow Americans who would share her views. I'll read some of what she said. Anyway, some of the allegations are beyond belief. One restaurant in question is Uncle Bubba's Oyster House. And this Lisa Jackson who worked there said that African American employees were required to use separate bathrooms than the white employees and to enter through different doors from white staffers. Now, before you jump to the conclusion that Lisa Jackson is a disgruntled African American, she's not. Lisa Jackson, who brought the case, is white.
Good for her.
Jess just said good for her. I agree.
My eye just started twitching.
Yeah, right. Good for her. Because you don't expect that. There's a white employee seeing this kind of stuff and getting sickened by it. And she finally couldn't take it anymore. It was creating an environment for her that was unbearable. She also accused Dean's brother, Bubba, of making inappropriate sexual comments, forcing her to look at pornography with him, arriving totally drunk at work almost constantly. But the biggie came when this Lisa Jackson was asked, when Bubba was getting married, to handle the food arrangements and the serving arrangements for the family. So she was high up enough in the Dean family's trust that she was somebody that they gave that job to. And one of the allegations made in the complaint is that she asked Dean what she was thinking in her head. She wanted the wait staff to be wearing at the wedding. How formal do you want this to be? And here's what she says Paula Deen said. Well, what I would really like is a bunch of little niggers to wear long-sleeve white shirts, black shorts, and black bow ties. You know, in the Shirley Temple days, you know, when they used to dance around. Now, that would be a true Southern wedding, wouldn't it? But we can't do that because the media would be on me about that. So in her deposition, she doesn't quite deny that, but she doesn't remember saying little niggers. She says this. I remember telling her about a restaurant that my husband and I had recently visited in Tennessee or North Carolina or somewhere, and it was so impressive. The whole entire waitstaff was middle-aged black men, and they had on beautiful white jackets and a black bow tie. I mean, it was really impressive. And I remember saying, ooh, I'd love to have servers like that. But I'd be afraid somebody would misinterpret. And Dean goes on in the deposition to say that restaurant represented a certain era in America. Yeah, it did. Slavery, maybe, or Jim Crow, but she loved it. She found it so wonderful. She really wanted to be able to do that too. Asked if she used the N-word, she said, yes, of course. And in fact goes on to talk about how she uses it all the time and how it can be used in a non-mean way. Deen also said that she thought jokes containing the N-word, she was asked if jokes containing the N-word would be hurtful. And Deen said, I don't know. She says, that's kind of hard. I mean, most jokes are about Jewish people. Rednecks, black folks. Most jokes target, well, I mean, I don't know. I just don't know what to say. I can't, myself, determine what offends another person. She admitted her husband tells racist jokes a lot and that she is not offended by them. And her answer was, because it's my husband. Well, is it the Food Network that employs her? They're already falling all over themselves trying to say, we do not. But how much of a backlash this is going to be. My guess is that the people who love her and watch her don't have a problem with any of this. That's my guess. But I think a whole lot of other people who may have enjoyed her show will now find it a little difficult to watch, knowing where her head's at. And see, this is the kind of racism that is not acknowledged by the people who have it. They don't understand that it's hurtful, or that, in fact, it's even illegal. They don't understand that pining away for the days when you were waited on by black middle-aged men in crisp white shirts and black bow ties. Yearning for those days. And aware the only reason you couldn't do that in your restaurant or at your wedding is that you would be subject to, well, exactly what ended up happening. So, moving on to another racist thing. I did not see any video of this because I rarely watch television news. But I am aware that there was a rally at the U.S. Capitol building yesterday by the Tea Party types, and it was an anti-immigration rally. And some of the signs they were holding, these are the same kind of people. There were signs that say, immigration reform equals legalized invasion. And get this one. Another had a large flag with a Jesus fish on it, stylized with the stars and stripes, and it said, Proud American Christian. And under it said, Shut the door. Now, here's the kind of thing that would make Christ I was going to say roll around in his grave, but since he apparently left that, he can't do that. But just go berserk. Michelle Bachmann, of course, spoke to the all-white crowd. And halfway through, she was interrupted by a caller. Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Lynn Cullen show?
This is, yes. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
I don't care about immigration. If they pass a bill, that's fine. But if you look back in history, anytime immigrants came in this country, and I know it was great way back then, but the middle class suffered. And this is not coming from just me. It's coming from, I know a guy that's a college professor. He said the wages are stagnant then. He said because they come in there and they work cheaper, so it forces these employers to just pay cheap labor. And it's hurt the middle class every time. I mean, if they want to let them, that's fine with me, but it doesn't do the economy any good as far as making a good wage.
Well, you could argue, but that's already You might want to turn down your radio or something. But yeah, the fact is often, yes, immigrants come in and they are so desperate to get a leg hold that they will take jobs at lower wages. This is true. But they also, by taking jobs, they create things. They also take the kind of jobs that a lot of Americans do not want, and that has been shown over and over again. For the middle-class people who might struggle when another immigrant wave comes in, I would ask them to, just recall that they or theirs were part of an immigrant wave at one point as well. This is how our country has grown, and it's how our country will continue to grow, and it's also how our country has become as great as it is, because it's an ingathering of people who are strivers. No one comes here for a free ride. People come here so they can work and have a better life. And I'll tell you, the powers that be that employ people, they don't need immigrants as an excuse to lower wages. Wages have been lowered in the last 30 years constantly. And it's not necessarily immigrants. I mean, if it is, then it's immigrants at the highest levels of these highly educated immigrants coming in from India and China and taking some of those tech jobs, and the Asians taking those tech jobs. Maybe they start out working for a little less, but I doubt very soon that they're not making. I don't know what to tell you about that. Closing the door.
Another problem is the young people don't believe in unions, and they don't really like them. But they don't realize the benefits they get right now are because of the unions. So the union's been pushed out. They don't want to. The unions, I could do it on my own, and that's another problem too. Without the unions, you're going to have that low wages.
Well, I would agree, and maybe it'll get to the point where a whole new generation you have to get miserable enough to organize, and maybe we're just not quite there anymore. I don't know. If you look at union memberships, going down and down and down, it coincides totally with wages going down and down and down.
Yes.
Okay. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate it. That's a bigger part of it than immigrants. It's a bigger part of it than anything. If you don't have protection, if the worker doesn't have some kind of power, a collective power, they're going to get screwed. And we've talked a lot before. There used to be more of a social contract, more of an ethic, a social contract between workers and management, that the worker will, do what the worker does and be rewarded. Remember, workers were rewarded before, even maybe when there wasn't a union, probably not, where they would get a pension, where they would have a job, that would last, that would be there. They would have security. None of that exists anymore. None of it exists. And as a result, every worker is a single entity up against this huge, rapacious and greedy capitalist class that gets away with what it can get away with. There's no sense of being in it together. I'm always astonished when, companies and managers and bosses have a sense that they did everything. I mean, so what is labor? I mean, without the worker, there's no wealth. And it's those upper class folks who do not appreciate the importance, that it is the worker that you can't live without. We could live without a lot of the managers, but the people who actually do the work, provide the service, create the products. Try doing it without them. And they have not been getting their fair share for a long, long, long time. And it does befuddle me, as it does the caller, why the hell we don't see an uptick in union organizing. I guess they've been so well demonized again by those right-wingers that they've polluted the minds of so many Americans. They don't understand it. All those anti-union people who love getting overtime. Where do you think that came from? All those anti-union people who like having holidays off or paid sick days. Where the hell do you think that came from? And do you think you would have any of that if there had not been unions? If other workers hadn't fought, sometimes died for that? Makes me crazy. Well, classic, those who do not know their history. Sorry, you're condemned to repeat it. Joe Ellen writes, the interesting part of the Deen thing will be Oprah's reaction because she was a big fan of Paula Deen's. So we'll wait and see if Oprah freaks. Here's Chuck on Paula Deen. My wife and I love the South. We honeymooned at Jekyll Island, Georgia. We love pecan pie. You say pecan or pecan? Pecan pie, fried catfish, and everything else that goes with the region. But I can assure you that the Civil War is still being fought down there, and it's pretty common to hear comments like those that Paula Deen made. They have a few choice words for us Yankees, and I've been called all of them. I'm not defending Paula Deen. I'm just saying if you travel those regions, you can expect some colorful language. No, I know. And I saw some people online who were responding, and they were saying, hey, welcome to Georgia. Well, that's why I give it wide berth. I don't like going south. And anyway, if you want to hear that kind of ugliness and racism, all you got to do is go into a number of neighborhoods here, right in Pittsburgh, you know? The South doesn't own racism. It's a stubborn sickness. It's an amazingly stubborn sickness. Oh my God. I got to take a break.
More with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Pick up the all-new Pittsburgh City Paper today. Still the #1 source for weekend fun in the Burgh. Go online now at www.pghcitypaper.com to vote in the 2013 Best of Pittsburgh Readers Poll. And type in the promo code CPTSTIX for your chance to win Taylor Swift tickets. Vote now before it's too late. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com.
Check out my new time machine.
Does it work?
Hit the button.
Hey, it's Napoleon.
Oui. Check out the future.
Hey, you have a nice house. Why don't I?
You didn't save any money, buddy.
If only there was a way I could go back in time and fix that.
Yeah.
Save something for the future. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, so what I was saying is anyway, so at this Tea Party anti-immigration rally, Michelle Bachmann, of course, gets up, and she asks all the young people to join her on the stage. Come on up. And they do, and she grabs this little lily white baby and says, say hello to Tara, and say hello to America's future. And the crowd goes wild. But then Bachmann says, little baby Tara is looking at a very different future. Now, this is a rally. It was organized by the Tea Party groups and Glenn Beck. And as I said, it was Lily White. And as some have commented, the scene outside the Capitol with these guys was the Republican Party's worst nightmare, whether they know it or not. Because inside, you have a lot of Republicans, including, senators and members of the House, who realize that if the Republicans do not pass some measure of immigration reform this year, they're dead. They're dead. They're finished. And so they see their base outside with Michelle Bachmann holding up the white baby. And it's the worst nightmare because you don't want Michelle Bachmann on the Capitol lawn holding up white babies and talking mournfully about America's future. And the sort of nativist tone to the thing was constant. Bachmann said, looking out at the crowd, "It looks like a beautiful family reunion to me. It looks like the American family is here. Sometimes I wonder if it isn't real people that the politicians fear more than anything else. We're seeing a lot of real people here today, and I'm so extremely grateful that you're here." She's talking to an all-white crowd, and she's calling them real people. And I guess if you're dark, or if you're not Christian, you're not a real person or a real American And she says, we are very quickly observing a nation we no longer recognize. And she's talking about the nation that the demographers say, yes, will be brown and yellow and black and white, but that whites will in fact no longer be a majority. And these people are terrified by it. Terrified by it. The article I saw talks about a member of the Pittsburgh Tea Party, unidentified, I wish they'd identified them, who took the microphone as organizers encouraged people to do so and said the following. Get this is one of our own. "Why is it that instead of having the NSA tap the phones of the American citizenry, they don't go out and find out who these illegals are and who they're calling back in their home countries and to whom they're sending money, American money?" So does it occur to this guy that they're sending money, American money, that they made through hard labor, through contributing to our government, to our country, and they can do whatever they want with the money they make, just like he can, and how I think it is, in fact, laudable that somebody who has made their way here, has had to learn a new culture, a new all this, is working tough jobs, long hours, still, and not making much, still manages to live on less and send money back to their families who are struggling. Aren't those the kind of people you'd want? Aren't those good people? Hardworking? Family-oriented? How do those people become demons? How? And then one of the reporters at the rally talked to a woman there from Moore County, North Carolina, who identified herself as a retired teacher, and listen to what she says. This is a retired teacher. She talks about the immigrants. "They're so ignorant," she said. They spoke of their educational level. Well, it averages the highest about 10th grade. Now, the people here are educated, she says, looking around at the yahoos with the tea bags, in their ears and dressed up in Revolutionary War costumes. The people here are educated, and they know what's going on. They're aware. They also get this. Most of them are Christian, okay? So they have a conscience. They know right from wrong. That mindset that only white Christians are Americans, real Americans, that only they have consciences that know right from wrong. Good Lord. What kind of crimped, cramped, ugly religion has been poured into these folks' heads? If their religion, so strongly felt, makes them say things like they say, shut the door, people unlike us don't have consciences, we Christians are better, all that kind of, that feeling. What kind of a religion gives you that? Okay. Joseph sends me a photo that he took off his television screen, a description of the movie The Courtship of Eddie's Father, starring Glenn Ford, Shirley Jones, and Miyoshi Umeki. He says, I couldn't believe what I was reading. Here's what it says. The Courtship of Eddie's Father. Glenn Ford, Shirley Jones, Stella Stevens, Dina Merrill. There's no Miyoshi Umeki here. Anyway, it says, a single father and his precocious son agree that their lives would be enriched if they could find the right woman to join their household. But when the dad asks a squinty-eyed woman to marry him, the boy turns to their lovely neighbor for comfort. That's what Verizon Fios on-screen TV guide has to explain the courtship of Eddie's father? When the dad asks a squinty-eyed woman to marry him, his boy turns to their lovely, one can only assume, white neighbor for comfort. Good God! Good God! Have you pointed this out? Speaking of racism, what the hell? That was the description. Now, is that description, I can't imagine that's Turner Classic Movies description. How could it be? That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Oh, God. A White House-backed bill to overhaul the U.S. immigration system got a boost when the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office concluded that the measure would cut federal budget deficits and boost the U.S. economy. Duh! According to the CBO, which assesses the cost and economic impact of legislation pending in Congress, the Senate bill would boost economic output and significantly reduce federal budget deficits over the next 20 years. You're bringing in young workers. These are the people who are going to end up funding the Medicare and Medicaid that you'll be needing to live, all you old, wrinkled, white people. The fact that the CBO had said this, by the way, came up at the Tea Party rally. And they, of course, discounted it immediately. And there were a lot of hoots and hollers saying down with the CBO. Because you know this crowd. This is a crowd that if they're not hearing what they want to hear, and if the facts don't coincide with what they want to hear, they simply say that the facts are not facts. But it is quite clear that if you look at these Tea Partiers, and especially at that rally yesterday, their concerns are that the country is becoming less white, less Christian, and that they, the real Americans, as Michelle Bachmann put it, are going to be losing their majority status and consequently their political power. Look, I mean, obviously, they'll still have plenty of political power. There'll be tons of whites, and whites already have a head start, a foothold, all that. It's just mind-boggling to me, the fear that seems to be what people live off of. Here's stuff on Courtship of Eddie's Father. The squinty-eyed woman. What? The squinty-eyed woman is Dina Merrill. And that is how Ron Howard described her. Her, not the Asian housekeeper. Oh, so never mind? I don't think you say squinty-eyed when there's an Asian woman in the thing without... Okay, you're misinterpreting squinty-eyed. In the movie, the child explains to the father that in comic books, the bad woman has squinty eyes and a big bust. The good women have open eyes and medium busts. No one in the original movie is talking about Asians. There is an Asian character in the TV show, but she is a housekeeper and beloved. Okay, so Joseph... that explains it. I still would say that that is a bad kind of a... Most people who see the term squinty-eyed woman are going to assume that refers to an Asian. Right? Come on. Squinty-eyed woman. You know, we all know where certain descriptions of body parts. Hook-nosed. Who are we talking about there? Yeah, a Jew. Squinty-eyed. Who you talking about there? You're talking about an Asian. Okay, but that's cool. That's interesting. Thanks, guys, for... So Dina Merrill, the blonde, the cold blonde Dina Merrill, is the one who's squinty-eyed? Oh, that's funny. All right, so Joseph, do your homework before you get me all flipped out. Oh, just to send you on your way, tearing your hair out. Breaking news, 34% of your fellow Americans want a theocracy. So, and you know, they want a Christian government. No. I not surprised. This is from a poll, and when they're asked, do you think, this should be a Christian country? Are you in favor of establishing Christianity as the state religion? Well, in some states, that goes off the charts. But if you get them all together, it's 34% of Americans. And when asked whether they would favor an amendment to the United States Constitution making Christianity the official religion of the United States, 32% said yes. That's that third of Americans that don't understand it, that think, they wrap themselves in the flag and they put on these, Revolutionary War outfits, And then they say things like, we think the U.S. should establish Christianity as the official religion, which means that they didn't get past page 1 of the Constitution of the United States that they supposedly so love. Wow. And then I'll leave, I promise. Russ writes, the immigrants who are working in America are not only sending money home, they're spending money here in this country, supporting the corporations the right wing will vote for and defend to the death. Tax money that goes to schools the right-wingers' kids are going to, those immigrants pay into that. Tax money for roads the right-wingers' corporate trucks roll on every day. Yeesh. You know, Russ is just pointing out, these people just don't. You don't want to try to reason and or educate that crowd. They're operating on fear and fear alone. Fear and loathing, I think. Somebody said that once, and I think that pretty much sums it up, right? Okie doke. That's it. That's more than it. Tomorrow, we'll have another go at it, and plenty to talk about these days. Hope you'll join me. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.